All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Today is October the 27th. This is our 401st All the Leads podcast. Our normal genial host, Jolly Jim Sullivan, is heading up north to the northern part of Florida to welcome a new granddaughter who is on the way. So he'll not be joining us today other than by listening in. I think he'll be snooping, but I'll be acting as your host today. And it will be Bruce and Chuck and I answering your questions. I'd like to welcome everybody to the call, all of our, frighteningly amazing agents. Since in the spirit of Halloween, we'll throw a Halloween reference in there. I know that we took this opportunity to invite a whole new crowd of folks to join us on this call today. To the people who are signed up and going to be attending the NAR meeting in Orlando, not next week, but the week after that. We hope to see you all there. And if you're joining us as a result of the email that we sent out to that, welcome. We've been doing this for quite a while. Bruce, would you tell them how they raise their hand to ask questions? And then I've got a few more things I'll throw in.
All right, absolutely. So this call is for you guys. If you have never been here before, it's hosted by All the Leads. So that's the company name that we are. We build systems and provide lead sources around life transition leads. So probate, pre-probate, divorce. We're coming out with some other lead sources at some point in the near-ish future. So be on the lookout for those. Not only do we give leads, but we give systems, we give training, we give Mastermind podcasts like this. We give we offer all sorts of different ways that you can plug in, learn, grow, and build your niche systems out around people that are going through life transitions, because we all know that those are have to sell homeowners and often in many cases have to buy homeowners. So if you don't have leads and you're looking to expand your business into one of those areas, reach out to us through chat or after the podcast by just going to alltheleads.com. We've got ways that you can check your county. One of the things that we do very, very consistently and heavily is we offer these training opportunities. And this call, if you haven't been here before, maybe it's been a while, this call is for you guys. You're going to be able to jump in and ask questions. The way that you ask your questions is if you're live here on Zoom, is you just raise your hand. So down at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a little reaction smiley face. You click that and there's an icon there that says raise hand. Raise your hand. We will unmute you, or we will ask you to unmute. One of the reasons you can't just automatically unmute yourself is several months ago, we had Zoom bombers come in and they would say some pretty terrible things. So please raise your hand and we will ask you to unmute yourself. Questions, comments, wins, and ideas, they are absolutely all welcome. This call very frequently ends up centering around kind of the probate or pre-probate niche, but it is really any real estate topic is inside of the limit, in bounds. Okay, so ask any real estate topic that you have. If you want to know how to get started with probate, if you want to know how to get started with divorce, you have a script question, you have customizing a specific deal or saving a deal. It's all on limits as long as it's real estate focused. If you're not here live with us, maybe you're watching live stream on Facebook or YouTube or something like that, you can chat your question in there. We have moderators that will let us know what those chats are, and we will answer those questions. Our coaches are myself, Tim Yandel, who's our CEO. Chuck Sirk is on here. And we have several other very high-level producers as well. So if you ask a question, we're going to be able to answer those questions based on our, in many cases, years of experience, probably experience handling just about anything that you guys can throw at us. I did have someone last night ask about setting up a DAO. I was clueless. So as long as it's not crypto related, I'll probably be able, or we as a team will probably be able to answer those questions. Tim, I'm going to throw it back to you after that long rambling monologue.
What Bruce was referring to is that we, in an effort to reach out to some of our West Coast folks with a little more content and information, we've started a clubhouse session that we do on Wednesday nights. And the group that came on, they'd come on 2 weeks ago at the very end, wanting to talk about setting up an organization. They've got a really interesting idea. They're funding a tiny house community and project with the idea of expanding it and growing it into, in essence, almost a global community. They've got really big dreams, but they're figuring it out as they go. And they were setting it up with what's called the DAO. And a DAO is a very interesting organization. It's a very decentralized method of having some degree of administrative control over a group. And so we got in way deeper than we needed to last night, but we learned a good bit about that. And what they're trying to do is figure out how to fund it. So we're going to keep in touch with them as we go. But it was interesting. And for those of you who haven't joined us on that, be aware that we do that at 5 o'clock California time every Wednesday. So 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Just hop on Clubhouse, and it's the Real Estate Coaches Corner. And Ty Guerrera hops on there with us as well. And we're all on there. And we have a good time and chew it up for an hour. And we'll take, just like we do here, anything anybody wants to talk to. It's just all audio, so we don't do the Zoom call that we normally go do. Bruce, I was going to tell you, I also have seen that there are now people that are doing the Clubhouse call, and they're automatically putting it on Zoom as well. And there's no reason that wouldn't work, obviously.
Yeah. And anyone that does want to join in on that, Clubhouse is just an app on your phone. You would go set up a profile. You would find myself. And I do need to change this as a joke. I gave my bio. I started it with international male model, which I am not. So if anyone is looking for me and it says international male model and you decide that you got the wrong person, you got the right person. I was joking around and nobody got it. So I guess it's so far from the truth. But find me, find Chuck, find Tim, find Jim, Ty Guerrera, friend us, and you will get notified, or follow us and you'll get notified anytime we go live with a real estate coaches call. All right.
We do have a hand in the air, but Chuck, I wanted to give you an opportunity to say hi.
Hey, everybody. It's a great day. Finally, the sun popped out here in the mid-Atlantic. So I know I've had a number of coaching calls and we've been under the clouds for quite a bit, but we're excited. Lots of great people that are joining and getting up and running in this particular business. And I mean, again, it's a recurring theme for our coaching of the subscribers at ATL. Go and do. Please go and do, and you will learn as you go along. Do not wait, please, because the market continues to change. The market continues to evolve. The sooner you get stepping down this path, the sooner you will be in a much more stable position.
Good words, buddy. Good words for sure. Hey, Bruce, also maybe mention that we're also streaming this live. I don't know if you did or not. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but to both Facebook and where else?
YouTube, Facebook and YouTube. So if you're watching live through the live stream and you have a question, chat it into the comments there, and our moderators will bring it here to us. We can answer those questions as well.
All right. We also have chat here. If you want to tap it into chat and you're afraid to talk because you know that Bruce bites, you can just type it into the chat and we'll answer. So we've got a hand in the air. Dorian has his hand in the air, her hand in the air. If you'll unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hey, Dorian, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Really good. What can we help you with?
All right. So I have a potential deal that I'm looking at right now where, interestingly, how it came about, I was looking in public records and saw that there was someone in my network who actually filled out the affidavit of heirship. So I thought to absolutely leverage that relationship versus going in cold, of course. So I just wanted to reach out to him and see if he knew of any plans with the property, because the person who I believe was the point of contact is what's referred to as the administrator of the estate. And once my point of contact who filled out the affidavit reached out to her, he shared she does have interest in being able to sell the property, but then they passed along with the contact information for me to reach out to her, and then she shared, I'm not able to sell what isn't mine.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's a lost cause, but I do feel as if I need to, I don't want to say damage control. I don't think it's damaged, but there's definitely some things I feel could be better established to try and, put a good foot forward, let them know that I'm here to help and an option. And I'm just curious to know, what would you suggest moving forward for this? Like, should I get in contact with the attorney? Should I get in contact with, I'm just kind of stuck.
Okay, so the person that said that they couldn't sell what wasn't theirs, that was your connection, or that was the administrator? You're back on mute. Let's see. Ask to unmute. Go ahead and
Apologize.
unmute.
I just muted myself. The person who said they can't sell what's theirs is the administrator of the estate.
Okay, so the administrator is probably not a family member in that case. So your contact the person in network, and let me ask you what you meant by in network, because that your dialogue really began with the person that you referred to as in network. Is that a friend of yours, someone that you know, sphere of influence? Who is that person?
Yeah, it's a sphere of influence person, and I
Okay.
did see that the administrator is actually the daughter of the deceased.
Interesting. Okay. So you're kind of dealing with someone that probably just doesn't want to make a decision for the rest of the family. And that's a very, very common, it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's a common response. A lot of times it won't be quite, hey, I can't sell what's not mine. But there's one thing that we know when the person says, hey, I can't sell what's not mine. And that is that there is something that could potentially be sold. I'll take that answer all day long versus, hey, we're not selling or don't have anything to sell. So at least you know that there is something that could potentially be sold. The administrator, if it's the daughter of the deceased and they gave you that answer, it just means that there are other decision makers involved. So in that case, I would say, hey, it sounds like you need to really talk to the rest of the family about that, right? Okay. Get some commentary on that. So if you would just say, kind of using it sounds like statement, it sounds like you really need to talk to the rest of the family about that, right? And then be quiet, let them expand on that. Maybe they'll say, yeah, you know what, I actually am only administering. I'm not going to get a portion of the house. My sister and my brother and my cousin are going to get that. They will probably fill in some gaps for you. And then you might say, who ultimately is going to be the person that decides whether to keep or sell that property, and now get kind of the person that's going to do this. I had a very similar conversation just a couple of days ago with a family member that had filled out an affidavit of heirship. They weren't the administrator. Brother's the administrator. And she just said, look, I'm going to have a little share of this, but I'm really not the decision maker. And I said, hey, do you mind? Would it be okay if I called your brother? Yeah, I think that'd be fine. Okay. Could you do me a quick text connection just so he knows that it's not out of the blue? And then normally what I do to lighten the mood a little bit is say, and just to get everything clear, I offer a plethora, just a very large number of services around probate. The majority of those are absolutely free. All I really ask is that if you're going to sell any real estate, that I at least have a shot to show you guys what I can do. Does that sound fair? All right. Cool. And now you really have lightened the mood because they don't feel like they're going to get hit with a sales pitch at every turn. So that's kind of how you're going to handle that. You do need permission to, or at least you need to know who is ultimately making the decision around whether to keep or sell the property, though. And you would just ask the administrator. And now since you already know one of the other family members, just ask that other family member. Say, they said that they can't sell what isn't theirs. Who's going to be getting the house? Just ask that. And then say, do you have any idea if the house is going to be sold, or are you guys going to be trying to keep that somehow?
Right. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Chuck, Tim, anything else to add?
No, the only thing that I was thinking that you might want to also keep in mind whenever you're dealing with anything like that, and it's always something that you can trot out, and that is that in many, many circumstances, people who are in those circumstances, particularly in this one, because they have filed a notification that they stand to inherit, they're looking for money somewhere along the way, or there's good indication of that, and they may need it sooner than later. And that's really a reason that we focus on the cash advance program through our relationship with our third-party vendor for cash advances. If you hop on our website and go to my.alltheleads.com cash advance, you'll be directed to a little form to fill out, and you can put their information in, and someone from the cash advance side can advance them funds against what they're likely to inherit, as long as there's a legal document showing that they are going to inherit. And they can oftentimes get them money in as little as 2 days, anywhere from $5,000 to $600,000. And they're real quick to do that. They're super easy to work with. And so having that in your back pocket, all you really need to put in is, your information, who the person is that passed away, and who the person is that the cash advance folks talk to, and they'll get them some dough, and you're a hero, and anything that you want out of that from then forward, you pretty much own that relationship because you handed them money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Tim did not put the / in. So my.alltheleads.com / cash advance, right?
That is correct. And it is my, not www. It's my. In essence, it's yours, but it's my.alltheleads.com / cash advance.
Awesome. Chuck, anything to add?
No, I don't have anything specific, but other than you may want to ask where they are in the process, because if they've got letters and those types of things, then that kind of dictates exactly what can and can't be done with the property. It sounds like they're early in the process, and that would make sense to just understand exactly where they are, what they're doing, and for me, I want to understand, what do they need? What are they concerned about? And what are their goals when settling the estate? So that way, then they could say, this is my ideal outcome of settling this estate. And you'll start to pick up. I mean, they'll say, well, we don't want the house. We want to get rid of that because we've got some other debts we need to go ahead and pay. And they'll open up, and it's rather than just talking directly about the house, say, well, what are your goals in, settling the estate? Do you have a lot of stuff to deal with? That's where a lot of the services and the resources we bring to the table can really help out with taking a lot of that heavy lifting off your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the Find the Pain program.
Yeah.
And that's something we often lose sight of in a lot of the things that we're dealing with, is that the whole point of that first conversation is you're just trying to build a relationship. You'll get to the things that you need, but you need to find a way in to build a relationship that is absolutely pressure-free on them. If there's anything that you can do that, think about how you build a relationship with somebody that you meet. You find some common ground, you have some discussions about it. And in this case, there are a lot of things that you can inquire about, talk about, deal with, that you can ask a lot of questions to get a lot of great answers, but you don't want to be peppering them with them. You just try to get them to reveal a little bit, and in 2 good questions, you're going to have an open dialogue, and you just talk your way through it. You'll be on the phone for half hour, and you've got a friend, and you're going to help them get stuff done, as long as you're not trying to pressure them early on in the ballgame. That goes whether you're an investor or an agent. Either way.
Yep.
Got some hands up here.
All right. I got to get back to the main screen. Hold on a second. Matt, let's get you to unmute yourself, please. And I have a written question from Meredith. Meredith, will come to you after Nancy, okay? All right, Matt, you're first.
Well, I'm really early in the stage. I mean, we talked about this, I think, a couple months ago, where I found the person's heirs for him who passed away. So have any of y'all dealt with where it goes to the estate attorney, and they have to hire a genealogist to figure out the heirship to the person?
So is this one of those? Is this a case where there are no heirs that have been identified, so they're hiring a genealogist to go find just a single person, or are they just trying to find extra heirs?
Extra heirs, because I found the heir, which is an
Okay.
88-year-old man in South Dakota.
I think I remember this.
Yeah.
No, I've never dealt with that. Has anyone else dealt with that? I'd be curious. I'd love to give you some feedback. Jessica raised her hand. She's dealt with that. I never have. Tim, Chuck, we might call Jessica up to tell us what happened as well if she's willing.
Did he die intestate? There's no will, obviously.
Yeah, they gave the police officer or detectives allowed me to break into the house and go through it, and I've been like 10. I mean, I found the only thing I can think of is he has quite a substantial amount of money in the bank. So I'm thinking he might have a safety deposit in the bank, but unfortunately we're not there yet to even get into the bank.
And he has no identifiable heirs, basically none.
Just the one that I stated, which was the 88-year-old in South Dakota.
Right.
I didn't even know where he lived, so.
And can that person establish a direct relationship, a blood relationship?
Oh yeah, we already did, and then I even had the death certificate for his brother,
Right.
who didn't have any children because he was only 14 years old when he died.
And is the court ordering the DNA?
Yeah. Well, the genealogist. Yeah.
Yeah, but who has dictated that you have to do the genealogy test?
That's what
the
I'm
judge.
asking.
The
Really?
judge.
The judge.
So Mr. Walden, who's the heir, had to hire or pay the attorney to pay for his fees, a genealogist, and whatever the court fees were.
And the 88-year-old brother is related
no.
how?
The 88-year-old uncle.
Uncle.
Was
Okay.
his mother's brother.
Okay. All right. This is fascinating.
I've
don't
never
know.
ever heard that that's an interest. Where are you located again?
Fort Worth, Texas, where there's 2.3 million people and only 2 probate judges.
Hey, Jessica, are you willing to share your experience if I ask you to unmute yourself? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yep. Okay. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. I'd like to hear what your experience was with this.
So we have puppies, just forewarning anyone if they start barking. So I'm in Los Angeles County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County in Southern California. Only in LA have I seen it happen. But I'm working a case currently where it was kind of a zombie property. Someone brought it to me saying I'd like to buy it. We looked into it. The lady passed away. I tracked down the one heir that I could find through the Hall of Records. And then the judge has stipulated that we look for other heirs because there's just these 2 brothers that don't really know her. She's Polish. She had no kids. Like, there's just this can of worms. So I started looking into it because I've always done genealogy as a side thing, just myself for my family. And I go to LA County Courthouse once a week. And lo and behold, I was doing research, just checking on phone numbers or something. And there was a genealogist sitting next to me. And he works for a company that's out of Utah. And all they do is research on probates for heirs. So I have his contact information. If anyone needs it, they do it nationwide. They're amazing. He was able to point me in a couple directions that I could start with really fast and easy, and didn't cost the estate much at all.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I say go ahead and drop your email into chat.
Okay.
Matt, reach out to Jessica. That sounds like it'd be a good connection.
For sure. Matt, I just reached out to you on a workplace too. I saw you were with EXP.
All right.
Just
Wonderful. Great question. I wish we were, I wish I dealt with it. And I think it's John chatted in. He said, if it's intestate, they do have to go 5 layers out on the family tree. So that may be why. I haven't heard that rule, but I could be, maybe I haven't, I've just forgotten it, but
No.
in some cases it looks like they have to go about 5 layers out.
they already hired so today is the day that we're going to hear what the genealogist found, which was a certified genealogist to find this. So they've been working on this for, I guess, 2 months now.
Fascinating. Come back next week. I want to hear more.
Absolutely. I want to hear about this too. That's
Well,
great.
I'm just, because I was telling Mr. Walden, I said, he got 3 windows blown in the house. He just, like I said, there's a lottery right now that's going to be $800 million. I said, you won the lottery. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of tickets that you're going to have to buy before, you get the proceeds.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of brought it to him.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Bruce,
Thanks, Matt.
Before we jump off that one real quick, because there was a question in chat pertaining to it, and Larry had asked if isn't that the job of an ad litem? And I'm assuming, Larry, you're referring to the guardian ad litem program. Typically, that's a person who had been appointed as the sort of the caregiver, overseer for someone who typically guardian ad litem program is more for children or for seniors who can't take care of themselves. And if he didn't fall into either of those, then the court would not have appointed a guardian ad litem for them. But that typically for that, not for someone just who's dying intestate. If that didn't answer your question, give me a little more clarity. Okay, you said that makes sense. That's great. Okay, Bruce, back to you, bud.
All right, let's go to Nancy Meredith. Your question is next. Nancy, if you'd unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, just a quick question, Tim, on that cash advance program.
Sure.
It looks like it's only available for people inheriting houses. Is there any reason if you have somebody who's like maybe they have an ownership and are motivated to get rid of their house that you couldn't refer somebody like that to?
Sure, you can refer anybody that you want. The issue is, and that's a great question. Thanks for asking. The issue there is that anything that it is different than a loan, it is a cash advance, and there are legal ramifications of why it's not a loan. But anything that you can establish the ability to repay it based on an event, in other words, if there's something that's going to happen in the future at some particular time that a person could say, yes, on or before, the first of next year, I'm going to inherit, I'm going to get X amount of dollars. I'd like to get that money now rather than later. They'll loan the money. They just have
lottery, cash settlement.
Exactly. Structured settlements work, insurance payoffs, anything like that, where they can establish that sort of thing. And the cash advance folks are very experienced in working with you to determine what those things are. And they'll talk with your potential advancee. I guess that's an interesting word I'll make up. They'll talk with them to determine what that is, and they'll need to furnish some proof of, the fact that they do stand to inherit money.
Right. And maybe you covered that. Is there some information on what kind of referral fee that we would get?
We've put that out. We've put that out before, and we'll put it out again. Okay. You'll get something with it for sure, and it's good for you without any question.
Okay. And then just one other thing, maybe anybody can answer, but especially Bruce. So I've been a little negligent in focusing on my probate leads. I had some kind of strange leads come through, and I probably need to get that sorted out because I think there's some that are missing and some that aren't correct. Anyway, I just want to get re-engaged and really start using this as a strategy, especially since the economy is shifting here, and I think there's probably going to be more opportunities for this. So just kind of curious what you would recommend to get myself re-engaged.
Yeah, it's
falling
really
off the wagon, right?
What's that?
I've fallen off the wagon. I'm like a dieter that ate a bunch of cake or something.
The thing, Nancy,
shame.
This is going to be directed not at you. This is going to be directed at so many people on this call. So many people. Half of the time when folks show up here, it's with the same challenges. And in a lot of cases, you just have to identify whether it's fear-based, whether it's time-based, money-based. It may just be time for you. It could be that you leveraged your time too much, but I think that you need to go back to time blocking. Definitely remember, and I want everyone here to take note of this. We do teach mail, digital presence, phone calls. Mail, digital presence, phone calls. You need your attorney relationships. So those attorney relationships are going to be something else that you need to go and pursue. But if you can get kind of your digital presence, your mail out the door, and then start making those calls, it's going to be vital. And a lot of people are frequently asking what the ROI on mail is. I find that it's hard to pin down what the ROI is on whether something came from mail or a phone call. That's one of the reasons that I say those two things have to be done together, because it's just like the person that called me many years ago and I asked, how do you find me? And he said, I see your billboard all the time. And I did not have a billboard. But the thing is he'd just seen multiple different pieces of marketing. He'd seen my brand out there and just sort of assumed that maybe it was a billboard that he saw. So that's what I run into with probate, is the call may have tripped the line, tripped the wire that got me the appointment. And then I show up and they pull 5 letters out. So you want both of those, but absolutely you can't do any of those on an island. If you're in a very, very rural market, and by very rural, I don't mean the most rural like where I grew up, but if you're in a rural market with low competition, I think that mail can stand on its own. But in general, I don't think that either calls or mail necessarily stand on their own. You want to do both. And if it's any sort of kind of fear-based, you're just going to have to kind of get over. And Nancy, I don't know if it's fear-based for you on making calls, but if it is, you just have to push through it. Go screw up. I've been kind of on this kick for a while that the faster you go out and screw up and the more screw ups you make, the better you get. And if it's a matter of just like, hey, I don't want to mess up, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't want to make someone mad, you're just going to have to push through that. And I encourage doing that with time blocks. Personally, I am ADD. All right. And if I give myself 30 minutes to do anything, nothing's going to happen. I've got to give myself like 3-4 hour time blocks. So when I prospect, it's going to be 4 hours. I may not do it every single day. Others of you are going to say, hey, I'm going to prospect for 90 minutes every single day. I say, hey, I'm going to prospect for 4 hours twice a week. All right. I would set that time block up, make it a non-negotiable, no texts, no emails, no games, no social media during that time. And you just get down to brass tacks and you start making calls. And if you get yelled at, which doesn't happen very often, but if you get yelled at, you figure out how to make an adjustment to where maybe you deal with that type of personality again in the future. You don't get yelled at because you make an adjustment. That's going to be the best way to learn and push through some of the lack of action that you're talking about. Well, and
I haven't done it in a while. And so I'm not even familiar. You know what I mean? I mean, I know the general things of what I say, but I'm just wondering, was there a resource that I could download as kind of your step-by-step, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm ADD too. And I also get lazy if I don't.
Because you're ADD.
Yeah, I just, whatever. I mean, I'll go do something else, or, I got to go to the bank, or.
Yeah.
So once I get doing it, I don't have a problem talking to people. Mm-hmm. It's just me feeling scattered, disorganized, not having things lined up, maybe. If that's you, it's time block. It's time block. Now, when you ask about resources, are you talking about like a step-by-step phone? Yeah, exactly.
Guide?
And I thought I had one at one point, but
we never really had one for a long time. Chad was doing those, and Chad would say, hey, no, you know what? I don't teach scripts, and I don't like scripts either, but sure. I do like conversation frameworks.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you want practice with it, join my prospecting mastery class. It's it's the third Wednesday, Thursday combination every month. Join that if you want all of this, but I'm going to give you the step-by-step conversation guide right now. Okay. So we're not going to go into great detail. It's just some bullet points to maybe put on your whiteboard and know that this is the structure of a call. So step number 1 is you have to have a 10 to 15 second opening.
Okay.
So your opening needs to obviously greet them, tell them why you're calling, not what you're offering, why you're calling, and ask for permission to move forward. All right. So that's your opening. Greeting, why you're calling, ask permission to move forward. Step number 2 is your USP. You need a 15 to 30 second delivery of what you offer. And I say 15 to 30 seconds. I like 2 versions, because if I'm dealing with someone that's a high D that's kind of abrupt with me in the beginning, I'm trying to get my USP out in 15 seconds after my opening. If I'm dealing with a friendly person that's like, oh, hey, yeah, thanks for calling, and they don't know me from Adam, but I can tell they're friendly, I'm going to go a little longer. This third step is you've got to have a really good conversation hook, which is your question. So step number 3, ask a question that gets them engaged in the conversation after your USP. Okay. I prefer binary questions where I'm giving them 2 options, because they could hit you with anything after your call. So if you say, what can I help you with? They could say nothing. How dare you call me? You could say, you could help me with that. I mean, they could hit you with anything. So I like to give them 2 choices. Are you just getting started with probate, or have you been going through this for a while? It's just an example. And then that way I'm in control of what they're going to answer. Most people are going to resist you, so you want to be able to disarm their resistance. So basically just validate them after they've resisted. That's step number 4. Know that most people will resist you if you don't have a relationship yet. So step number 4, validate any objections or resistance that they have. Step number 5 is pivot to the real estate. Right. So I typically don't bring real estate up heavily up front. After I've validated them, I'll do kind of like a Columbo where, hey, I really appreciate your time. Maybe we'll keep in touch in the future. Real quick, before I let you go, are you guys thinking about holding on to the real estate that's in the estate, or is that something you guys are leaning towards selling? So I'll pull the real estate in the 5th step after we've kind of gotten through the basics. All right. And then, of course, step 6 is going to be a closing. All right. If they have real estate, you got to figure a way out to get in that property and get face to face with them as soon as possible. Yep. All right. So those are kind of the 6 steps.
And then what was the name of your class that you said?
I believe it's in the system as Prospecting Mastery. It may say Mastering Your Prospecting Conversations. It's one of the very few classes we charge for, but it's only like $149. It's 2 days, 5 to 6 hours across those 2 days. We go deep with a bunch of role play, and really we break down those 6 steps.
Okay.
And I think Lissa just dropped it in chat.
Oh, great. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Hope to see you next time. All right. Anything else, Nancy? Anything else, Chuck, Tim? You guys want to add anything?
Nope, you did good, Bruce. I just now I know that I have to give you 4 hours to do anything, and that's a good thing to know. You know, I knew that you're ADD, but now I realize there are time limits. So when I want something, I'll ask you 4 hours in advance. Now you've given away the code.
No, you need to make sure that nobody asks me for anything else during those 4 hours.
I've worked with you for a while, but I well understand the program.
If somebody texts me in the middle, the time block will not end and I will not produce anything.
Yes, he's easily distracted. He's like, look, there's a rabbit over there. Look. There, Bruce is gone.
Right.
Not
Nancy,
true. Not true.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meredith has asked, and this is something that I'm going to lean on some other expertise on as well. This came through chat before we go to John. Any thoughts on timeshares that may be left in inheritance? So no property, but the PR is in Michigan and has timeshares in Florida and South Carolina. Never really sold a timeshare. I do know that those are transferable and they're sellable. And that there are real estate licenses required, so you can get referral fees on those. And in my limited experience there. They may not be worth a whole lot, so you might end up giving them away or selling them low. So I would find an agent that specializes in timeshare and probably do a referral. But I'd like anyone else that has actually had experience with it help answer that as well. Tim's raising his hand. He insulted me, so he's not going to get to answer. Just kidding. Go ahead, Tim.
All right, then, fine. I'll just wait 4 hours and try again later. So the first thing that you got to do if there's timeshare involved is, Bruce is correct in what he said. In most cases, timeshares have become less valued, I guess would be a reasonable way to put that, but depending on where they are. And that has a lot to do with it. For example, if you had a very solid Hilton Head, North Carolina timeshare in a,
South.
Ritz-Carlton was selling something, because they did for a while, and that was one of them that they had, that's got some significant value. And Bruce gave you the right answer, which is to try and find a realtor in the local market. If you have that and you'd like us to, see if we can help you find somebody, drop a note to support and tell us where the two locations are, and we'll see if we can help you find somebody to put a value on it. The other thing is that oftentimes, if it's not something that's highly valued and it's what's referred to as a throwaway timeshare, there are companies that will sell them out. The challenge with it is that the timeshare is also a liability. That's the other side of it, is that it's a liability against the estate sometimes, because they will have a clause in the timeshare, if they didn't buy in essence, credit life insurance on the timeshare payoff, they're liable for it. They're going to have to pay it out of the inheritance, and that's a way the timeshare company will usually settle, but oftentimes they'll want money. So there's hair all over a timeshare in this kind of circumstance.
Another thing for Meredith is, I would say that you're a buyer for that could be you. I'd probably try to evaluate it first, get a value on it first, but you could always buy it. I bet people in this room, including myself, would look at those to purchase as well. It just depends on whether there's a deal, because a lot of times they're not going to be high valued, high dollar exchanges. And so my bet is there are just buyers all over the place for that if there's a little bit of a deal on it.
Always ask also if what networks they're involved in. And Larry made an interesting point in chat. I mean, you can go to Sell My Timeshare in Google, and you're going to get a million companies that are there to offer to help you get that job done. But the good news about all of those is that typically there are frequently asked questions there. Just when you're reading the frequently asked questions, be sure that those frequently asked questions aren't steering you just to their company, that they're giving you straight answers. Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Another hand in the air there, buddy.
Thanks, Meredith. Let's go to John. John, if you'd unmute yourself.
Bruce, Chuck, Tim, how's everybody doing? So one of my leads that I just picked up here in Northern Colorado, I was doing a quick title search, and there's a bankruptcy that was filed and it's pending right now. Less penned is the status in January. This also gets a little bit more sticky. I was just pulling up people's obituaries, which is not always fun, but this person was murdered as well. Domestic abuse, domestic violence, and their daughter was killed too. I sent out my first letter, just blindly sending it out. I don't know if people have ran into situations like this where you got a bankruptcy, you got a horrible situation, etc. attached to that. Just kind of, hey, is this, I don't want to say this is common, but wow, it kind of took me back a little bit.
It may not be common, but it's not uncommon either. I've dealt with murder-suicide houses, murder houses. You will run into these periodically, and in a lot of cases, if there was some sort of a domestic problem that led to that, many times the heirs could be children. So you're going to want and I don't know about in this particular case, but you're going to want just in your arsenal a good guardianship attorney. All right. It may not apply here, but make sure that you have a really good guardianship attorney or two. And if you can build that relationship, this is just kind of a spin-off rabbit trail. I get a lot of business referrals from guardianship attorneys that I've picked up through probate based on situations just like this. They're a little bit more specialized. The court has to approve different things and in many cases, the court doesn't always have to approve sales. So the court has to approve it, and it takes a specialized guardian ad litem or just a guardianship attorney. And now all of a sudden, those unique situations come to me. Maybe that's the reason why I've dealt with so many cases like this, and it doesn't seem that unusual anymore. I don't know if there is a specific question there other than have you dealt with this before? But the answer is absolutely. And if you're in this space long enough, you're going to deal with it a few more times, and it really isn't. You just treat it the same way that you would anything else, and get yourself your specialized practitioners that are attorneys, and build those relationships and get them involved as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that was probably my question, is like, what additional resources would I may have to know? And if it's like on the guardianship, that's not a problem. I don't know if there's other kids involved, but just reading this story, it's like, yeah, this is a messy situation. It was only 2 months ago too. So a lot of fresh stuff going on. Okay.
Yep.
Will do.
All right. Any other answers?
No, I think just the whole concept of when you're dealing with that attorney, guardian, if there is a guardianship attorney that's appointed in the kid's case and all that, they're going to be extremely protective of that entity, and you have to be extremely careful about how you present yourself. You've really got to come off as, I know this is a tough time, I know it's a struggling situation, but there is a business reality here that if a property needs to be dealt with, that's something that I can help with. Also, here are all the other things that I can do that are going to be extremely difficult for that person to deal with, and maybe I can help. And no strings attached, be glad to do it. Just present yourself as offering value. Lead with the value that you can offer, and let the rest of it come to you, rather than leading with I know they're all dead, but I'd like the house. And I'm not trying to be callous about it, but the more you can present yourself as a solution and a person who cares, that's really where you've got to come from.
And for me, I think it's not something to stay away from a prospecting perspective, but knowing that as you go into it. And John, did they reach out to you? Have you had conversations already? You haven't spoken to them yet. You were just doing some research on the list. We need to unmute John.
I think we need to give you.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, so this was a lead that just came in last week from all the leads. So I sent out the letter, and then I was looking at the title a little bit more close this morning as I was about to call them. I did call them, didn't leave a message yet. So I have not spoken to them yet. So
okay.
Is there an attorney on the lead itself?
No.
Okay.
There's not an attorney. I do have 2 attorneys I'm happy to refer them to. I do not know if they are guardianship attorneys. I can ask them.
Right.
That's my next call that I'm about to do
PR,
after this call.
Right, but there is a PR, right?
There is a PR, and I've reached out to the PR so a couple times already. It's just brand new in the cycle. They filed probate, I think, like 25 days ago, in that ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key element there is that if there is a PR, again, I think the same approach is probably, I would say the same thing I said before, which is that even with that PR, it's the same approach. Hey, I know this is a tough situation, and here are all the wonderful things I can do. And Bruce made a great point that, eventually you'll probably be dealing with an attorney in there, and it's a great opportunity to build that relationship that can stand you in good stead going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys.
Got one more with a hand up there, Bruce.
All right, John, what's happening?
All right, can you guys hear me? All right. I got switching microphones. Yeah, I've done a number of those, either suicide, death, murder. My first one was actually a short sale. The guy was killed on the front porch. But we had to do a short sale to get rid of the unsecured second back in the day. But yeah, you just, regardless, I would wait until you have everybody assigned on that. You could start mailing it to them, but if you're going to reach out to them, try to get someone assigned first and then go from there. But you just have to be really sensitive. You got to kind of feel them out. Some people are very, I'm, pretty straightforward, cold kind of guy, right? Not a lot of emotion involved in my transactions. Sometimes these people are super emotional. Just be a sounding board, just kind of listen to what they're saying, kind of reflect their, that's super tough. I had one, the dad did it in the garage, right? And we didn't even go in the garage, right? He couldn't go in the garage. So we just worked around it, worked with what we could do. Then when he left, it gave me the keys. Then I took over and handled the rest, right? So you just kind of feel them out. Don't push them. Don't go there. If they don't want to talk about this, don't go into it. Just kind of work around it. And if you get an attorney involved, the attorney's going to have no, they're going to be disconnected. So then you can have the tough conversation with the attorney and we all can you can kind of work around it. So there's ways to do it. It has to be done, right? We got to get rid of this asset somehow. Someone's got to do it.
In a lot of cases, they'll bring it up to you at some point in the future. And it's not going to be right away. So I wouldn't even tell them that what happened. I personally
don't even talk about it unless they're going to talk about it, right?
Yep.
Talk about what the focus is the asset, the house, the transaction. What do we got to do here? I've had to do massive hazmat cleanups in properties, right? Literally bring in, it was like $3 or $4 grand of hazmat cleanup. So, but we didn't really talk about it. It was just there. Mm-hmm. And we knew it was there. No, it was the elephant in the room. But once the person left, then we could deal with it over here.
Yep. Wildest one that I had, and I'm really, I don't love these stories because they really are heartbreaking. Wildest one I had made national news, and it was heartbreaking. A woman burned her house down with her and her kids inside on purpose. And I had to deal with that, and it was all over national news. And then one day I woke up and one of my properties was on the news, and I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the local news in 4 or 5 years, except for this one day. I woke up, I turned the news on, and my tenant was standing in handcuffs on the news because she'd shot her husband shot and killed her husband in the townhouse that I own the night before. And the police do not call you; they just kind of leave everything there for you to clean up. So there are some absolutely crazy situations we're going to deal with, and you have to be treat it as though it's kind of like any other probate or estate that you have to settle. And if they want to bring it up, talk about it. But most of the time they'll kind of ignore it. And if they're ignoring it, you should as well.
Very true. I think, I want to add one other thing, and that is that depending on the size of the community that you're in and the degree of notoriety in regard to the property, you may want to not do your head in the sand and acknowledge the fact that you're aware that there's stuff going on with this that may make this challenging, rather than ignoring the fact that you already know that there's a problem there. And you got really good advice. I think that's good advice too. If you don't have to deal with it, starting off, that's probably better. But I think, like I would say, if it's been all over the news and it's everybody should know about it, you should probably know about it as well if you're knowledgeable about what's going on in your community. So you got to play that one by ear. That's kind of up to you. So, but I think they made a good point about not bringing it up in advance if you don't have to, and that's certainly good advice as well. I think you just got to use your own good judgment, which is true on almost anything you're going to be dealing with. You got to put windage in it. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know your community and your market.
Yep.
Hey,
agreed.
We're out of time. We're at the top of the hour. And I want to just say one other thing. Larry, I know that you'd asked a question about digital presence, and Bruce had brought something up about that. I would ask that if you'll bring that question back next week, we'll be happy to talk about that. And we're kind of kicking things down the road, pre-setting stuff for going forward. We've got some things that we're going to be doing in regard to what's happening online for you guys as well. And so it'd be a great time to talk about that. So if you'll hold your question about digital presence until next week, we'll be glad to answer that then. And hopefully you'll come back and do that for us. Okay. All right. Good deal. It is 1:59. I think, is there anybody else out there, Bruce?
I don't see anything. I think we're good.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to attempt to do, actually, you do this one better than I do. You can repeat the Jimmy close in honor of Jim Sullivan and Halloween. Do the Jim close.
Who?
You.
I don't know the Jim close.
You do.
I want you guys to take one thing that you've learned on today's Mastermind, put it into practice, come back next week and tell us what you learned. And I hope you guys have a great week, everyone. Jim, I hope I did you proud.
And drive safe, folks. It's Halloween and there are going to be kids all over the place. Drive safe.